I'm Brian Tellis. Welcome to Tell Us Like It Is, a show on which we chat with really interesting people, to say the least. And my goodness, are we doing that today or what? It's also that time of year when we do the Mahindra Blues show. It's our 10th edition. And I have with me a gentleman who's legendary. And not just that, who's been a dear, dear friend of this festival for the 10 years that it's in existence. I am completely in awe of the gentleman to my right, none other than Mr. Buddy Guy. Buddy, thank you so very much for coming back to our festival yet again.
Well, thank you for having me. You know, it's always a joy to come here. You know, as a boy, I always just dreamed of coming to India, but I didn't see that because my parents were so poor that I didn't never think I would leave the farm. But I was blessed enough to, I guess, play guitar well enough to get a chance to meet you in India.
And is that a privilege, or is that a privilege? Thank you, buddy. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
You know, you mentioned about coming from a very simple family. I can remember many years ago when we were chatting over dinner once, you mentioned to me a story about your mother who'd collect water, natural water, to cook food and to bathe you and your siblings. Tell us a little bit about those growing up years.
Well, we had to, actually don't get offended, but they used to call it the Indian dance, where you had to dance with a stick like this if it didn't rain for water, because that's all they had. But we did have a creek, and if it didn't rain for quite a while, we'd have to drink the water out of the creek, and we didn't boil the water. It was just that old rainwater was just running. We had to fish and everything else that it. And then if it rained, we had the big drums at the house that would catch the water that run from the top of the house. And we used that a lot. And how did they survive 5 children with that? I don't know, because nowadays you try to tell a young person that, they will look at you and say, are you silly? Are you crazy? Or something like that. Yeah. My
goodness, it's been a journey from what you just spoke about to who and where you are today and the stuff you've achieved. What is it about music that made you gravitate towards it and take it to heights that you have?
Well, first of all, I tried my grandparents. I got a chance to know them all. I lived long enough for to question them about their life, and they didn't know anybody who was musically inclined. And I just was used to, even before I knew what a guitar was, I used to take rubber bands and put them up to my ear and stretch it on my fingers like this, and all I wanted to do was hear something. And I would take the wire from the screen on the windows and try to make a guitar, and that's as far as I could go back. But as I said earlier, I questioned them, and they don't know nobody, because in that time, music wasn't. You couldn't get paid by playing music then. You just played the music for the love of music. And most of it was in churches and gospel singing and things like that, until the greats come along like Arthur Crudup, Lightning Hopkins, Big Bill Broomsey, and then came, which I can make you laugh at that, a guitar was reasonable to buy until this late Mr. B.B. King made a record called 3 o'clock in the morning. Then the guitar went price almost like a car. You had to buy it on time. So I had him laughing about that before he passed away. I said, if it don't be for you, I could have got a guitar very cheap.
Were there any definitive moments, any stories that you want to tell us about the road?
The road?
Yeah, being on the road.
Well, one just happened yesterday.
It did.
For me to play here, I could play 5 hours without stopping, and it wouldn't compare to that trip I had to take from Chicago to get here. Because it took me like right at 18 hours or 19 hours before I got to the bed here yesterday. And to play 5 hours on my guitar with people smiling and having a good time, that's more joy than the trip coming here. That's about it, but that's a job. You know, the world is so small now. It's not just me with those many hours in the air. Some people is doing it worse than I am.
You know, it's truly a privilege for us, buddy. It's probably a 4th visit to this country, and we absolutely love the fact that you've been virtually an ambassador, you know, for our festival and our love for the blues. Speaking of which, you've mentored, I've got a whole list of them, but to name a few, Clapton, Jeff Beck, Stevie Ray Vaughan. These are people that have kind of, worked with you, reached the heights that they have reached. Quinn Sullivan, more recently, whom you brought into India. Do you have any icons that you hold in, in esteem or held in esteem and inspired you?
Yes, I started naming them early. Of course, B.B. King, Lightning Hopkins, Muddy Waters, Arthur Crudup, and Big Bill, and all those people like that, Fred McDowell, Son House.
Right.
Now, all of those guys who Muddy them learned from, they was listening to those people who was playing mostly acoustic guitars before they amplified the guitar. And I got a chance to meet them all before they passed, and they was telling me the same questions you asked me. Who did you get it from? And who did you get it from? And we all got it from someone. And it's just a hand-me-down thing. When I discovered Quinn, now I found another little black guy in Mississippi named Kingfish. You got to hear him, because you got to bring him here, because, unbelievable. And I just spent my money to record him, and he didn't win, but he was up for a Grammy last month.
Oh.
Yeah, and he's amazing. Now you got to listen to him, and then you bring him here.
We look forward to that.
Oh,
we look
yeah,
forward
man.
to that,
Yeah, I told you. And I got a son, he ain't doing too bad. I was telling some girls out there interviewed me a few minutes ago, the average young person now don't know nothing about the blues, because most blues club, I don't know about here, you got to be 21 years old before you can come into a blues club. But you don't have to be 21 to go to combat in the army, to fight, kill, or be killed.
Sure.
They'll take you in at 16, 17, 18, and you can go home, and you still can't come to my club or your club and drink a beer. You ain't old enough to drink a beer, but you're old enough to kill or be killed.
Oh, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is
That's
crazy.
why we sing the blues.
You answered my next question, which was, what is the blues about? And you just so eloquently spoke about it. Buddy, we've watched you. We've had the privilege of seeing you on stage, and man, you spread joy through what you do, whether it's your, walk through the audience, or whether it's the polka-dotted guitar, that you've endeared all of us to. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I never thought I was good enough to be like the great B.B. King or the Eric Clapton. They can just stand there and I think can win you over. But it was a guitar player in Louisiana. I think he grew up in Mississippi too, named Guitar Slim.
Right.
Well, during the heydays of the amplifying the guitars, he came up right around there. I don't know if at the same time B.B. or what, but all of them came up with those electric guitars at the same time. And I saw Guitar Slim play, and he had just a wah. He didn't have a remote like we got now. And when I saw him there, I was at the stage. I wanted to see what he sounded like, and I was trying to figure out what he was doing with his fingers, and all I did was hear the guitar. And I didn't see him. The band was on the stage just playing, and I hear this guitar, and all of a sudden I look, he's come walking. And I said to myself, if I ever learn how to play a guitar, I want to act like him, but I want to play like B.B. King. And that's why I got that idea from trying to get attention. If I don't play well enough to get your attention with my fingers, I figured I should just play with my mouth if I could. Take the drumsticks, a handshake of everything else, and I learned that on my own.
Buddy, getting our attention. My goodness, have you got our attention? In fact, the world's attention. I could be a little bit north or south of this number, but I believe that you do close to 140 gigs in a year. I mean, my bad math tells me that's one every 3 days. How in God's name do you manage that?
Because the love of people. Music speaks in all languages. Coming here, and I went to Africa 7 times before I come here, and I'm like saying, who's going to know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because I don't speak those different languages they had. They had Swahili, French. In some of the countries I went, the French was different from France.
Right.
And so I said, well, let me rely on my guitar. So we was in the country of Africa, and it was called Zaire. And they had me playing at the college. And I couldn't read the paper, but they brought the paper the next day, said the teacher retired after he saw me play. I say, for what? And they laugh and say, he said, because he couldn't play. After he saw me, say he wasn't playing well enough. So I said, oh man, you know, you can play. And all that experience made me feel like whatever you do, just hope you can make someone feel joyful and smile and happy. And I keep, every time I'm interviewed, I usually say, my parent would always tell me, don't be the best in town, just be the best till the best come around.
Oh, man.
And I live with that every day.
And it shines through, buddy. It shines through.
I hope so. You know, you don't ever know if you're going to make everybody happy, but I want the ones that never seen me or who have seen me to say, he didn't please me, but he gave me everything he had. And that's all I can give you.
Now you know why the gentleman with me, Buddy Guy, is nothing short of legend, nothing short of legendary. We are blessed to have a man, a gentleman, a musician like him in our time. And look at this privilege, to have him share his life story and his beliefs with us. Buddy, on behalf of your many, many, many millions of lovers, listeners, fans, call them what you wish, I just want to say a huge heartfelt thank you for being who you are.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to come to India. Because like I say, where I came up at, without my music, I never would have made it. Because I didn't go to the army, I was unfit or something. And every time I go to a different country, this country or whatever other country, that's a blessing. Because I love to see that one day, I doubt if I'll ever see it, the whole world smile like me. And would nobody be angry.
How beautiful would that be? How beautiful would that be? Buddy, thank you again for your time. Thank you for sharing the joys of life, the joys of performing arts, the joys of the blues, as far as music is concerned, not just with us here, but with the world.
Thank you so much for having me.
Know very well that you are appreciated, that you are loved.
Thank you so much. And tell India I love India.
There you go, India, and indeed
Yes.
the rest of the world. Buddy
Yes.
Guy loves us. Well, friends, truly beautiful individual, truly beautiful human being, and a friend. Buddy
Thank you
Guy.
so much. Thank you so much, and I love everybody, man.